In this video, we'll be learning how to cut this beautiful off-shoulder bustier. If this is something you would love to learn, then please stick to the end of the video. Welcome to Sew with Naomi. If you're a new subscriber, you're welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, I love you so much. So let's get right into the video. The measurements needed will be displayed on the screen. So first, we'll start with establishing our starting line. So this starting line will serve as our shoulder line. Then we'll further go ahead to put down our chest line, our bust point line, under bust, and waistline. For the chest line, to get your chest line, you'll be dividing your bust measurement by 6 plus 2.5. That way you get your chest line. The rest of the measurements are to be taken on the body. So on the shoulder line, you are going to input your shoulder measurement divided by 2. So you put your shoulder measurement divided by 2 on the shoulder line and the chest line, and then we are going to make a straight line connecting from the shoulder to the chest line. After that, the next thing we are going to do is we are going to come down by the shoulder by 1.5 for the shoulder slope, and then we are going to put our neck measurement. So we'll be doing a basic neck measurement, even though we will not be using this. So that's 3 by 3 just to get the shoulder slope. Then we'll connect the neck measurement and connect the shoulder slope from the shoulder to the neck width. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is form our armhole curve, and then from the chest line we are going to mark 3 inches upwards, and we are going to go in by 0.75. You go up by 3 inches and go in by 0.75. Then input your chest measurement, that's your bust measurement, quarter of your bust measurement plus half inch, quarter of your bust measurement plus half inch, and then we are going to make a curve and connect it to the shoulder slope. So that is how you get your armhole curve. Now the next thing we want to do is input our bust span measurement. The bust span measurement is also known as the nipple to nipple measurement. So you measure it, you take the measurement on your body. So we are going to be putting that measurement from the waistline to the bust point line. So we are going to mark it. So whatever you get, you are going to be dividing it by 2. For this person, it is 9 inches divided by 2 gives us 4.5. So 4.5 is what we marked on the bust point and the half length, and then we are going to connect it with a straight line. The next thing we are going to do is input our darts. So on each side, I'll be using a dart of 0.75. So I'm going to mark 0.75 on each side of the bust point line, and then connect it to the bust point. So that will give us our darts. After this, we are going to be inputting our measurements on the bust point. On the chest line, we already have our bust measurement plus half inch, and then on the waistline we'll be inputting our waist measurement plus the allowance we use for that. So we use 0.75 on each side. Adding it together will give us 1.5. So we are going to input our quarter of our waist measurement plus that 1.5, and then we are going to connect what we have to the bust measurement on the chest line. Alright, so as we all know, the front and the back half length are not the same. So whatever you have as your difference, this is the point where you put it for your bust dart in order to make the sides equal. So for this, the difference is 2 inches. The front half length is 19 and the back half length is 17. So with the difference of 2 inches from your bust point line, you come down by the difference of what you have. Now we are going to be doing the under bust tightening. For the under bust tightening, you are going to take your round under bust measurement divided by 4. You put that measurement on the under bust line, mark it, and measure what you have left. That is, you are going to take quarter of your under bust measurement, mark it on the under bust line. Whatever you have left is what we'll be using for the under bust tightening. Now for the under bust tightening, on the center front part, we are going to be using less than the side front because the bust is fuller on the side. So for this measurement, I had 2.25. So for the center front part, I did 0.75, and then for the side front, I did 1.5. So when you add it together, you have 2.25. So we are going to be connecting it from the bust point to the tightening, and look at the way I am putting my curve. You don't need so much curve at that point. You don't want it looking too pointy or too curvy. So we are going to be connecting it from the under bust back to the waistline. So for the side front, I don't want it too slanty, so I'm going to go ahead and add ½ inch to the dart line and then connect it to that point. So I'll be connecting it to that ½ inch because I don't want it too slanted. So I'm going to add back that ½ inch to the waist measurement and connect it back to the bust measurement. I hope we get this. Okay, so we are done with the under bust tightening. Now we want to look to impute our off shoulder line. So it's up to you to determine how off the shoulder you want it. For this particular one, I'll be using 6 inches. So we are going off by 6 inches. After marking the point for our off shoulder, we're going to go ahead and measure what we have on our shoulder line and get the midpoint. From the midpoint, we are going to connect it to the dart on the bust point. So we are going to do our over bust tightening. Now we are going to be using 0.75 also for the over bust tightening. From that off shoulder line, we are going to mark 0.75 and connect it to the bust point line on both sides of the dart. Now remember, we have taken off some measurements from that from the over bust dart, so we're just going to add a little bit back on the line. You can just see how I placed my curve ruler and added that back to the over bust line and the armhole area, so we don't have shortage on that part. Okay, so this is our new armhole curve, and that is where we'll be cutting through. Alright, so guys, the next thing we want to do now is, I think we're almost done with this. On the waistline, I'm just going to go up by ½ inch and connect it back to the dart leg, just to give it a little bit of shape at the waist area. So we're going to be cutting this off. All this will be going off, and then we are going to close that side dart permanently. Okay, so we are basically done with the front. Let's go to the back part of this. So I'm just going to extend this armhole because we'll be using the same armhole depth or chest line, same chest line for the front and the back. So you put your basic measurements, that's your shoulder line, your half length, that's all you need for the back area. So for the back shoulder slope, we'll be coming down by 1 inch, and then impute the basic neck measurements 3 inches by 1 inch also. So for the back shoulder slope is 1 inch. So we are going to connect the neck measurements and also connect the neck depth, the shoulder slope. Now for the armhole curve, we are going to measure what we have on the shoulder line down. We are going to get the midpoint. Measure what you have from the shoulder to the chest line, get the midpoint and go in by 1/2 inch, and then you are going to use that to connect for our armhole curve for the back. After this, we are going to do our back tightening. So the back tightening, we are going to be taking 0.75 at the back and then connect it to our neck depth, 1 inch, the 1 inch neck depth measurement. So we are going to connect it that way. So that's going to be the back tightening, and also every measurement starts from that point now. So we take our chest measurement from that line, that's our new center back line. We input our bust measurement divided by 4 on that line, and then on the waistline we take our waist measurement divided by 4. So for this, I would not be using any dart for the back part, so I'm just going to connect it from the waist to the bust line. So this is basically it for the back. So we'll go ahead and cut out this pattern. Okay, so for the front, we want to make sure we don't have any shortage, so we are just going to through our dart, that is, we'll close the dart, place it together and make sure the lines are matching up. Okay, so after that, the next thing I want to do is also mark out the point for the off shoulder for the back. Remember, we used 6 inches for the front. We'll also be using that same 6 inches for the back. So I'm just going to mark 6 inches to take off for the back off shoulder line also. Okay, so having done this, it's time for us to cut out the patterns. But before that, remember, we are here to do our neckline. So at this point, you can choose to do whichever neckline you want, be it sweetheart neckline, whatever neckline, but we'll be doing a scoop neckline for this. So I'm going to come down by 2.5 inches from the 6 inches off. That's a total of, that'll be 8.5 in total for the neck depth. So that's like 8.5. Then I'll connect it to the armhole. As you can see in the video, that I closed my dart before connecting it. So whatever neckline you do, make sure your dart is closed while you are connecting the neckline. So we are basically done with the pattern drafting. All we need to do now is to cut out the patterns and transfer to fabric. So if you've been watching up until this point, please do well to give this video a thumbs up, like, share, subscribe to the channel for us to bring you more interesting tutorials. Okay, so if there's a tutorial you want us to feature, do well to drop it in the comment section. All right, okay, so we're done cutting out the pattern, and you can see the sides are matching up. So this is the center front, the side front, and the whole of the back. So now we have gone ahead to transfer to fabric and add our necessary allowance. So this is the back part. I have 4 pieces, 2 pieces for the lining and 2 for the main fabric, because it's a lace, so we have to interline the lace. Okay, so here we are going to go and join the upper parts for the 2 sides, and also for the down, we'll join the down to the down of the skirt parts also, then turn the shoulder. I will not be doing much of showing the skirt part because this video is concentrating on the bustier only. So this is the back. We're done with the back. You can see the zipper, and there's a detailed tutorial on how to cut and sew a pencil skirt, and I'll be leaving the link on the right side of the video here, and also at the end of the video you can also click on the link to watch
how to get your perfect pencil skirt. So now to the front, we have also gone ahead to transfer this pattern to fabric. Remember that the center front should be cut on fold. So here we have it. The next thing we want to do now is to cut our pad for the bustier, to pad the bustier. So to pad this, I'll be using a wording to pad it. I've already interfaced the lining. Okay, so please endeavor to add interfacing to your fabric. It gives it more, makes it more stable, and the outcome makes it finer. So we have our interlining and our lining, because this is the lace, so we have to like lining the lace also. So now this is wording, is the medium weight wording. It's not too thick, it's not light, it's just the medium one. So to cut our wording, I'll be using the pattern. So I'll measure what I have on the bust point, and I'm going to be adding 1 inch to that for the side. So I have 4 inches for the bust point at the middle, so I'm going to mark 5 inches and just curve this out. So I'll be using this paper to cut out for the pad for the side. So this is how I'll be cutting it on the side. So we're going to cut this off and cut it exactly as it is on the side, but I'm going to be adding the 1/2 inch for joining. Remember, we added 1/2 inch when we were cutting, transferring to fabric, so I'm going to be adding that back. Okay, so the next thing to do is to place it on the lining piece and use your iron to press down, because it has gum on one side. So you're going to just go ahead and press it down to the lining piece. So we're going to be sewing this to the lining piece. So we've gone ahead to do that. The next thing to do now is to sew it together. So make sure to notch your bust point line, as it's going to help you when sewing. So I'm just going to show you how to join this on the machine. So we'll be joining the lining separately and the main fabric separately. So while sewing this, you should try to mark your 1/2 inch allowance, so you don't sew less than the 1/2 inch or more than the 1/2 inch. So I'll employ you to start from the down parts, and then make sure you notch your under bust and your bust points, and just follow your 1/2 inch mark. And so at this point, you do not need to rush, just take your time to sew it so you can have a nice finishing when you're done. Okay, so after sewing, do well to cut off all the hanging threads to give you a neat work. And then the next thing we are going to be doing is we are going to be top stitching on our seam. So you open up the seam and then you top stitch. So what this does is it gives the padded area like a firm feeling, kind of like when you put a boning on that part. That's what this top stitching makes that part feel like. So it makes it kind of firm. So after top stitching, do well to go ahead and trim off the remaining excess seams. So I'm just going to trim this off, and we are going to be doing the same thing on the other side. So after sewing the both sides, you can see what it looks like. The bustier is already coming out. So this way, when your client wears it, or when you wear this dress, there's no need for wearing a bra, because it's firm and everything sits just right. So we're going over to continue our sewing. The next thing we are going to do is place the fabric on the lining, and we are going to be turning it. So fabric facing fabric, right side facing right side. We are going to be closing the
shoulder area, the neck area, and then we are going to be joining the lower part, also the skirt part. So we've gone ahead to do that. We have closed, joined the lower part, and also turned the neckline, and then this is what we have. So the next thing we are going to do is to join the front and the back. But before that, remember there's a false wrapper in front. So to do that, I was working with limited fabric. So what I did was I measured my waist to hip. The waist to hip we're working with was about 10 inches, and then I doubled it, or I just got about 25 inches, I think. Yeah, so that's what I did, and then I just splitted it by the side. So I have about 20, yeah, so that's about like 26 inches. So I'm going to fold the upper part and also fold the lower part. So then we are going to just place it above the joining, waist joining, and then just split it up until the hip line on this side, up until the hip line. And then on the other side, I'm just going to fold it and stitch it down from about, I'll measure 1.5 inches away from the seam line, and then stitch it down. So we have done this. I've joined it to the back, also front and back, everything together, and then this is what we have. So what we have left is the sleeve. So we can see how this looks like. Yeah, so the lower part I didn't use two lining, I only used one. So the technique we used for turning Ankara, that's just the same way you're going to turn this one, because using double lining is like, it's too much with the way the heat is in this country right now. So just one lining is what I used for the lower parts. So the way you turn your Ankara is just the way you're going to turn this lace. So there's no need using double lining. You line the lace and then use lining again. I only did that for the upper parts because that was the only way we were going to get a good close for the upper part. Okay, now so for the sleeve part, remember we took our round shoulder measurement. So our round shoulder measurement for this is 46. So to get what we'll be using for the remaining parts of the sleeve, we are going to measure what we have for the front here and for the back, and then we are going to subtract. So you measure what you have for the front and measure what you have for the back. Remember here, we've already added our seam allowance to join the sleeve. So we have an excess of 2 inches, 1 inch at the front and 1 inch at the back. So when we calculate, you have to subtract that so you don't end up with a bigger sleeve. So for the whole shoulder is 46. You are going to subtract what you have from the front and the back. So for this we have 46. Then for the front and the back, we measured about 31.5. Now we are going to be subtracting the 2 inches for the sleeve joining that we have on both sides. So when we subtract 2 inches from 31.5, we'll be left with 29.5. Okay, now so we are now going to subtract this 29.5 from 46. So I know, right? It's a whole lot of calculations. So 46, when we subtract 29.5 from 46, whatever we get at the answer, we are going to still divide it by 2 for each shoulder. So at the end of the day, we have 16.5. So dividing it for each shoulder should have 8.25. All right, 8.25. Then we are going to add 1 inch to each shoulder to add to join the sleeve back, so that's 9.25. I hope all these calculations are clear and I'm not confusing you. I hope we all understand. Okay, so at the end of the day, each shoulder gets 9.25. That's what we are going to be using for each shoulder. But then this shoulder is has elastic, it's like a puff sleeve and it has elastic, so we will not be cutting that 9.25 on the fabric because the fabric has to be excess in order for it to gather. So we are going to be using that 9.25 to cut our elastic band instead of the fabric. I hope we get this. So instead of cutting 9.25 on the fabric, we are going to be multiplying that and using that measurement for the elastic. So I'm just going to go ahead and bring the fabric for the sleeve. Okay, so here I have the fabric for the sleeve folded in two. So the sleeve length is 10 inches. I went ahead to add extra 3 inches. So here I have it folded. This is for, I'm cutting the two sleeves at the same time. So I'm going to come down by 1 inch and then I'm just going to place the armhole of the main fabric on it and just trace it on it. Then I'm going to be cutting this off. So on fold here I have the whole length of the lace. So I didn't cut anything off because I wanted it to be full after gathering it, after the gather, so it could be full. So I just folded it into the length of the sleeve, that's the sleeve length, and then the width is the lace. I hope you understand, the length of the lace is the width. So because of the texture of the lace is like it's sequin and it's going to be itchy, so I just started to do a facing for the elastic band. So I cut an elastic band by the length of this sleeve and then the width is 2 inches. I used ½ inch to turn it from the right side to the wrong side and then ½ inch to top stitch it. So what you need to do is cut your elastic band for the round sleeve and also for the round shoulder. That 9.25 that we have left is what I cut. So I'm going to be passing this elastic through the elastic casing that I made, and then after that we'll be attaching it to the fabric. So I'm using the safety pin to pass it through the elastic casing. So we have this 9 inches for the upper part, so I'm just going to pass it in. We'll be doing this for both sides of the sleeve. So after passing it in, all you need to do next is attach it to your sleeve, to the round sleeve, and make sure you measure after sewing if it is corresponding with the round shoulder. If not, you can reduce the elastic so it could be equal with what you have for your round shoulder. All right, so after passing the elastic for the round for the shoulder, do well to go ahead and pass also the one for the round sleeve. Okay, so for the round sleeve, do not subtract anything from your round sleeve measurement because you don't want it too tight on the round sleeve. Remember that the fabric is already excess and then you are gathering it. So the elastic on the round sleeve should just be, maybe you just minus 1 inch or 2 inches from your round sleeve measurements for the elastic band. Okay, so that should do. Shouldn't be too tight, else it's going to be uncomfortable for the client. Here is the end result of the sewing. This is what it looks like on my client. She absolutely loved her dress, and yes, I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye.